Good morning, hello. Which country are you from? You're my first spectator for today. Nice to meet you. Greece. Okay, so probably in Greece same time as in Ukraine, right? Or in Greece there is European time. In Ukraine 12 o'clock, 12:10 in Greece. US, okay, good. So Nigeria, very nice to see you here. Okay, so there are several spectators, so I can start. For today, my plan is annotate Merhaba, is annotate second round of candidates tournament which was played yesterday. Good morning. Or good afternoon, because it's 12 o'clock now, so it's like afternoon or noon. I don't know how to explain correctly in English, noon or afternoon, but morning it's still 11 in my imagination, because it's 12, it's later than morning, but okay, it's not so important. By the way, depends of country, yes, that's true, but I mean in Ukraine. 4 p.m. in Thailand. Oh, so nice. I have never been to Thailand, but I know that there is Thailand Open. I mean, drafts open, not chess. And I had dream one day to come to play in Iceland. Very nice. How is my day? Okay, I just took the breakfast. I have seen some videos and made some exercises with Hungarian language. Firo report is fine. Okay, it's fine, of course, but I will comment all of the games, of course. So I put together 4 games in one file, but okay, I will start with report Firouzja. So e4, c5. Okay. Knight f3, d6, d4 takes, queen takes d4. No variation. Of course, much more common choice here is knight takes d4, but, and I think that the plan of Firouzja was to play knight f6, and after knight c6, Firouzja can play both a6 Najdorf variation or knight c6 classical variation. White has choice between Sozin attack with bishop c4, between Rauser attack with bishop g5, and also line with f3, it's possible. Okay, but queen takes d4 played. Knight fc6. Also knight f6 is possible here, of course. Not hurry with knight c6, but knight c6 played, bishop b5, and here the most popular move is bishop d7. Sometimes queen d7 was played. For example, Sergei Tivyakov played many times queen d7, but a6 also possible. Positionally is good for black because they will have 2 bishops and strong center, but for everything necessary to pay in our life, so black has problem with development and not so easy. And now white has many possibilities. Castle is possible, knight c3, bishop e3, but okay. c4, it's one of the most natural moves. White improving his position in the center. They are building a structure like Maroczy style, and again e5. Black has probably knight f6 as well, but I don't know if knight f6 white can play solid, like knight c3 or something like this. Maybe even e5 is possible, but I don't know how strong is e5. Black can consider knight g4, for example. Well, but it is totally different game. So e5 he played, queen d3. Now we can see that, of course, white can improve his position gradually. I mean, knight c3, castle, bishop e3, but also in some moment there is possibility to push c5, and black cannot take on c5 or play d5 because pawn e5 is hanging. And so if allow c d6, bishop takes d6, we will see same structure which Rapport had in the first round against Duda, but with black. So he suffered against Duda, but managed to make draw. Now he has white, and he will be with advantage. Knight e7, c5. Okay, c5 is maybe not only choice. Of course, castle is totally normal move, but maybe after castle, I don't know what planet Firuzha to play. Knight g6 is logical continuation to prepare bishop e7 and castle. Also, maybe c5. It's a possible idea to prepare knight c6 and knight d4. At least I don't see immediately any tactical refutation of this plan. There is also question why not c5 immediately. It's the same plan, and to avoid c5, c4, c5 from white. So it's logical question, but okay, probably there are some tactical problem. I'm looking for ideas. Okay, my first idea to play queen d5, and if rook b8, knight takes e5. But it doesn't work because bishop e6 and rook is protected. So queen d5 is totally stupid move. It doesn't work. So, okay, what else? Yes, castle. Okay, castle and rook d1 is possible, but knight c6, black just in time. Everything is defended, and knight is ready to come to d4. So I think maybe after c5, knight c3 to start. It's more logical, and after knight e7, probably there is plan with a long castle. I don't know. But anyway, for example, if bishop g5 or bishop e3, knight c6. If castle, knight d4 is possible, or even just bishop e7 is possible, not hurry with knight e4. Only after knight d5, black can play knight d4. Or same position with bishop g5, f6, black can play, and then again knight c6 and knight d4. Of course, it's quite interesting position. White has ideas, for example, bishop e3 is possible, knight c6, knight d2 to prepare f4. Because f6 can be some kind of weakness, because after f4, e takes f4, bishop takes f4, in some moment black cannot develop his bishop easily to f6. So probably this was reason why Alireza didn't play c5 immediately, but anyway, it's not totally clear. Bishop e7, for example. Thank you. For example, castle. Castle impossible because queen d5, sorry. So after castle, something like bishop e6. So now we can see a reason to provoke f6 because now queen d5 just wins the piece. So bishop e6, f4, for example. Yes, f4, e takes f4, bishop takes f4, and white is slightly better. If knight d4 in some moment, knight f3, if knight e5, probably even queen g3 is possible to attack pawn, and after castle b3, and white pieces are a little bit more active. But okay, it's not totally clear position. Black can play something like rook f7, bishop f8. Okay, but he played knight e7, maybe c5 was interesting alternative. Knight e7, now Duda doesn't want to wait. It's Rapport, sorry. Duda played similar plans in round 1. So c5, so Richard played c5, knight g6, more or less forced. And we have same structure, like in the game Duda Rapport. Now Rapport has white. Bishop e3. Logical idea. So if black has pawn on c6, there is no big reason for white to put knight on c3 because against pawn on c6, knight on c3 a little bit restricted. Yes. That's true. Totally same structure. So bishop e3, it's very logical idea. White plan is transfer his knight to c4 from d2. a5, castle. Maybe knight d2 immediately is possible, but after knight d2, bishop a6, maybe. And white has problem with castle, although this is endgame in the board, but anyway, it's important to connect rooks for white, so castle is very practical decision. Whose quality of play? Okay, I need to see carefully all of games, and after it, in the end of my stream today, I will express my opinion about your question. Who is my favorite to win? Who is my favorite to win? Probably Nakamura. Okay, of course, Rapport felt himself in trouble during the first round, but okay, these plans are quite known, so it wasn't like a very original idea that white is in general slightly better in such a structure. So he likes to play this position, and it's very understandable. What is main difference? Okay, there is big difference because in game do the rapport, black has had also problem with his bishop on g7, which was extremely passive piece. And knight was on e7 with pawn on c6, also not optimal situation. So now black has two bishops advantage, and knight is better on g6 than on e7. So in general, situation looks like much more promising for black if compared with round one. Yes, g6 and bishop on g7 was a bad piece, and also knight on e7 was extremely passive with both pawns g6 and c6. And white had plan exchange light color bishops because white bishop on e2 was still alive. Okay, so castle f6, rook c1. But now white attacking quickly, weaknesses. So rook a6, Alireza is defending. Knight bd2, bishop e6, knight e1, another standard plan. Against pawn on f6, white knight f3 has no future, so knight e1, knight d3, very logical and very, very standard plan. Knight d3, rook d8. Rook d8, it's not obvious for me, maybe. Rook b8 was more logical. And with idea to prepare knight f8, knight d7 plan, and important that after rook b8, black not allow the knight c5 immediately because pawn b2 is hanging, and if white is doing something, for example f3, knight f8 is possible, and then knight d7 to improve his knight, and black has quite a good possibilities to defend this position. Also, still white is slightly better. Knight c4, for example, is possible. Bishop e7, maybe rook c2, something like this, and then rook ac1. So he played rook d8. Idea is also understandable. So he wants somewhere attack white knight on d3. No, king f1. Very logical continuation. For white is important to protect his knight d3, and the king is ready to do it from e2. Okay, in game Duda, okay, anyway, I need admit that Rapport defended very well, but in some moment Duda didn't play strongest move. For example, he played castle short instead of knight a3, so knight a3 was much stronger, and later he missed some good opportunities during the game. So it's not so easy to win even such pleasant position if you are playing against such a stubborn player like Richard Rapport. No, no, it was a question about round one. So Duda against Rapport. Now Rapport white, and he played king f1. Thank you. Again, black can try to improve his knight, knight f8, knight d7, something like this. Try to fight for c5 square, but now somewhere knight c5 is possible, this exchange. I don't know how strong it is, but rook is not on b8, so pawn b2 is not hanging, so if black plays knight f8, knight c5 is possible. Rook takes c5. If, for example, knight d7, rook c2, and still white is better. Also, after a4, it's not easy to make progress because white has problem with a2 pawn, and I think black is quite close for draw here. Knight c4 is possible, but after knight c4, rook b8, black has some contraplay. So after knight f8, probably knight c5 is not the best idea at all. But what to recommend? Okay, probably rook c2, for example, is possible. But anyway, a4. So it's not so simple because white has weakness on a2. Yes, king. Okay, king a2 is possible, of course. King e2, a4, and now maybe also knight d7. Not allow knight c5 immediately. If knight c4, okay, bishop e7. In some moment, black can think about a4. White can play a4 also, but I'm not sure that this is strong. Rook b8, rook b3 will be contraplay in some variation. So, not so easy, slightly better for white, but yes, okay, g3, f4, I'm not sure this is such a good idea because somewhere will be check from g4, and also after f4, e takes f4, g takes f4, f5. If black not lost immediately pawn after knight e5, knight c6, it's not clear that good for white to play in king's flank while both rook are in queen's flank. For example, even f4, e takes f4, g takes f4, king g8, something like this. It's not sure for me that this is a good program now. I think white need to play in queen's flank and try to solve his main problem with a2 pawn, something like this. But okay, bishop b4 played Firouzja. This is purely tactical move because positionally this is totally stupid idea. So positionally normal idea was knight f8 or a4, but bishop b4, okay, concrete idea. If white takes, a takes b4, pawn a2 is hanging, so king e2 is very natural, and knight h4. So Firouzja is a tactical player, and he is trying to utilize tactical resources in this position. I mean that if g3, bishop g4 is possible. So g3 is obviously bad for white. And after f3, knight takes f3, knight takes f3, knight takes b4 not possible because knight takes d2. So this rook takes d3, and black won the pawn. Okay, white has some chances for draw, but of course it's not what is reasonable play for white. So knight takes b4, it's forced, and okay, positionally Firouzja exchange structure, f3. On f3 played bishop d2, yes, bishop d2 even strong, yes. Maybe. Okay, f takes g4, white has some compensation for exchange, rook c4 and then rook a4. Okay, maybe not enough. Anyway, g3 is a bad move. Yes, I agree, bishop takes d2 is even strong. Black has exchange up, so knight takes b4 is forced. Okay, maybe rook g1 was possible, but okay, rook g1 it's rook g1 not possible because bishop takes d2, and if king takes d2, bishop c4. If bishop takes d2, bishop c4 as well. So knight takes b4 is forced. So black improved pawn structure. They have pressure against a2 pawn, but it costs that they lost tempest and now knight in trouble. So g3, knight g6. I mean, knight is passive. It's much better to have knight somewhere on d7. But now knight still on g6 and bishop c5 played. Richard. Take on a2 is extremely risky because white has idea b3 to cut black bishop, and this is dangerous. I don't know if it's losing. It's not so obvious for me. Maybe black can try to play this, but I mean something like this. Bishop takes a2. If knight b3. Here knight b3. Okay, knight b3. Knight b3 here probably you want. But what is idea of knight b3? What is your threat? For example, if I play rook a8 simply. No. Knight b3 is not good idea because knight c5, rook takes a2. No. Knight bishop c5, Richard played correctly. And now he played rook b8. It's not so obvious choice again. So even bishop takes a2 looks like crazy. Of course, much easier to recommend this move, recommend or at least consider this move in analyze and play in a real game, because white has possibility b3 to cut the bishop, but I'm not sure that white can win this position. For example, knight f8. I want to play knight e6. If, for example, this rook c2, rook e8. At the moment, black has pawn up, but okay, somewhere rook a3 is possible. It looks like playable for black and enough for draw. Of course, black is not pretending for more than draw, but probably they can play this. Also, of course, rook a8 was possible, a3 takes, but now probably Richard would take with pawn, but okay, it's opposite bishops. It looks like white has no special advantage here. Black has a good plan, knight f8, knight d7, which I mentioned already many times. So, but rook b8 played, maybe not the best. And now a3, and he took with rook. Now a little bit unpleasant because knight still on g6, not active. After rook takes a3, probably white plan is to take with pawn. I think take with bishop is also possible, but after simple rook b6, I don't see any special advantage for white. Because if, for example, knight c4, black can take and to play knight f8 now, and knight is ready to go to e6, and this position looks like pretty drawish. So probably b takes a4, and of course now a pawn is dangerous for black. Also rook b2 can be considered. Okay, pawn a2 can be danger. That's true, but only question how far this pawn can go. Okay, maybe white has also idea bishop b4, quite unpleasant for black. If knight e7, just take and take on c6, and bishop d7 if king e3 and knight c4 is coming. So also, so maybe not necessary to push a4 as soon as possible. Pawn on a3 can be useful for white to prepare bishop b4 idea. Okay, so after rook a3, he played rook be8. Probably correct. Probably even this was possible idea to take here. And if b takes a3, now rook b5 is coming, or even knight f8. Black can try utilize motifs that white cannot take pawn. Bishop takes f8 and rook takes c6. But okay, a4, knight d7, bishop e3, and a5, a6. I agree, this is dangerous. If c5, king d3, white ready to stop this pawn very easily. So black has some problem. I think rook b8 probably wasn't the best move. So in my opinion, bishop takes a2 was, or rook a8 was better. So now he doesn't want to take, so he played rook knight c4. Probably he expected rook a1 here, and rook takes a3 and something like this. Now if rook takes, black probably can consider rook b8 to avoid exchange. If pawn takes, maybe knight f8 is the best. Okay, but Richard played knight c4, another logical move. He wants to play knight d6 or knight b6 to create some threats. Alireza took the knight, but now bishop is stronger than knight. It's obvious. So it's favorite topic of Bobby Fischer, bishop against knight. We have seen many examples already, bishop against knight. Also in round one, in round two was game Nakamura against Rajabov. Nakamura had knight and Rajabov had bishop. So black is suffering. Knight f8 is logical. Rook b3. Yes, loved. But Matthias Valls doesn't love bishops. So I remember he had problem in positions when he had two bishops advantage. And once I realized this important characteristic against him in Las Vegas, in my game with black. Rook b7, king g8, bishop e3. Still, yes, Adams loves knights. So probably the best player in the world who likes and who is successful to fight against two bishop advantage is Michael Adams, in my opinion. So here, what can I say? White still better, and because bishop is stronger, and because bishop stronger than knight, there is question in Ukrainian. Чи плануєте коли-небудь пострімити українську? Що я можу сказати? Доброго дня, по-перше. Час від часу я роблю стріми українською мовою, і десь не так кілька тижнів тому робив. Звичайно, я буду час від часу українською мовою. Тут проблема в тому, що все-таки, коли я роблю англійською, то більша кількість глядачів може то слухати. Але, звичайно, час від часу англійською мовою я робив. Я от останній раз коментував перші 3 партії матчу Гаприндашвілі-Левітіна, який відбувався у Львові, так що з часом і то продовжу. Okay, I answered in Ukraine. Yes, so rook b7 is strong, and also white king is much better. So king on e2, it's much better than king on g8. It's for sure. And black plays rook d8, not obvious decision for me. Again, maybe rook c8 was interesting option with idea to prepare rook c7 and try to exchange white active rook. If, for example, rook e7, black has c5. b4 also. I'm trying to understand if black can defend his pawn. If king f8, just rook b7 is possible, and black has problem with his pawn c5. Okay, maybe not c5, so after rook e7, maybe black has something else. So move with knight. Knight f8 maybe, and then knight g6. King e8? No. You mean king? No, king e8 now is not possible. So king g8 is correct. Bishop e3, and now rook c8, rook e7. Yes, after c5 before, it's quite unpleasant because not so easy to protect. Yes, c5 before, yes. If knight d4, bishop takes d4. Of course, not king f1 because knight c6 is coming. And black is b5 not possible because rook a1. But bishop takes d4 is possible, and then take on c5. And white, okay, maybe it's not winning, but white will have extra pawn in rook endgame, even in this version, probably better. Okay, so rook c8, rook 7. Yes, now it's not so pleasant because not so clear what to do with knight. If knight c7, for example, f4 already is coming, and king f8 never possible because bishop c5. Knight f8, knight g6 is possible, but it's not totally solve all of this problem. White can try f4 already after knight f8. Knight c7, yes, knight c7, f4. And here, white rook on e7 still active and not so pleasant to play with black. Okay, so at the moment I need to take 10 minutes break and I will come back. So king f8, bishop c5. So king f8 is bad idea because bishop c5 and black losing material. Okay, I will take 10 minutes break and I will come back soon. This was question. No, I am not retired. I am still playing, and I hope that I will play alive very soon. Okay, so king f8 is bad. So after bishop e3, Alireza played rook d8. It looks like he is preparing knight d4. Maybe another reasonable idea was to play rook e8. To defend against rook e7, and if white is planning f4, probably in that case rook can be useful on e8, but maybe f4 is good anyway, because rook c4 is well placed and pawn e4 is quite well protected. So this for example, and maybe there is idea c5 also to prepare knight d4 check and rook takes d4, but it's not so obvious. For example, king f3 is possible and black still. Okay, rook d6, for example, to prepare knight d4. So rook e8 seems me like logical alternative, at least. So it's just prophylactic move, but it's not move in style of Firouzja. It's like remember me enigmatic moves with rook from the book of Aron Nimtsovich, My System. And so rook e8, it's enigmatic move. But it's a logical one, because black has idea to prepare king f8, rook e7 also. Yes, mysterious. Yes, mysterious. Thanks. Not always it's easy for me to choose correct word in English. So also black has idea king f8, rook e8. And if f4 also, so c5 is not only possibility, maybe also king f8 is possible to prepare rook e7. If f5, knight g5, for example, and black has quite a good chances for draw. But okay, so rook e8 was alternative. What is my favorite Sicilian for black or for white? What do you mean, favorite Sicilian? For black, probably Taimanov system, Taimanov Powers. My best results was there. Okay, but Firouzja played rook d8. It looks like he's preparing knight d4, but it's not so obvious plan, because in rook endgame black has clear weakness, king on g8, and white can have even mating threats in some variation. So in my opinion, rook e8 was the best choice. So after rook d8, Richard is not waiting. He's playing f4 immediately, because now he has no any problem with e4 pawn, and black has no plan to exchange rooks. I mean, they cannot prepare rook d7. Rook e7 was possible to prepare with king f8. Knight d4. Okay, logical continuation, but It's not clear that it's a good idea at all. White is better. King d2. Smart prophylactic move against d3 check. And white wants to improve his position slowly. Probably even h4, h5. Thanks for subscription. Yeah, black has real problem with contraplay because his king is permanently very weak. Rook a1 played Alireza. Very risky play, but probably he had no special choice. Hello, material is equal now. White has obvious advantage, but the question what to do. There is choice at least. Black has contraplay. Okay, nobody likes to go passive. Not only Alireza. And Alireza is in trouble now, but the question how to play, how to realize advantage, because black has some contraplay, rook h3 and rook takes g3, it's ideal. If b4, for example, rook h3, not so pleasant. So maybe even there white has been in chances. For example, b4, rook h3, rook g7 check, king h8. Well, maybe now even king f8 is possible, however. Because if rook h7, rook takes g3, it's not sure. Because king c4 is coming, there is mating threat, and for example this, even rook h8 and rook takes d8, this rook endgame can be very dangerous for black, because before pawn is thrown. Rook d7, where rook d7? Instead of rook, yes, rook d7, yes. No, I didn't review game of Nakamura after king h8, rook d7. Yes. After king, sorry. Okay, king h8, yes, rook d7. This was my idea, yes. Rook takes g3, king takes d4, and white has quite a good winning chances, because b4 pawn is very strong and black king is very bad, so. Okay, but maybe black has some contraplay with h pawn, but white has also e5, e6 idea. Yes, so b4 was a very logical alternative. And e5, okay, it's attractive idea to push pawn, but it's from different point of view white exchanging pawns, and this is dangerous way, because if there are small number of pawns in the board, it means that chances for defense is better. So I think b4 was the best option here. Rook h3 is forced because black has no other ideas, and now rook g7. If king f8, it's possible to take. If king h8, it's possible to play rook this. If king f8, I'm just taking. So, and with excellent winning chances. Okay, it was move 36. Very likely that Richard was in time trouble in this moment. So it's not so easy. But objectively, I think, after king h8, this rook takes g3, king takes d4, for example, takes, h5, b5. Ah, he played too fast. Okay, so it's bad sign. Yes, it looks like winning. King c4 and then even e5 is possible in some moment. He had 17. Okay, so if he has 17 minutes, it's a reason to think more seriously. Yes, I like b4 move. Okay, but e5 was played. Okay, best according to engine one. It's but okay. White exchanging pawns, and with this they giving more chances to his opponents. So it's not even if engine is support such move. Technically, it's not, or technically or practically, it's not the best decision in my opinion. Is this rook h3? Pawn is attacked, so rook g7 is possible, but king e4 played Richard. Check. Still he has chances, but now it's very concrete position. So black also has some threats. So rook e3 and after king f4, rook f8, it's some kind of threat. So it demands a very precise play. After b4, in move 36, white would have more choice and less reason to calculate variation in very precise way. Okay, so king f4 he played. Maybe it's not the best, I don't know, but rook e3 was the threat. I don't know what was improvement. So this some several checks, and he took the pawn, but on white has now we can see situations that white has total advantage, but only 2 pawns in the board. I mean, 2 white pawns, and it means that black is not hopeless. So rook e2, very logically. He wants to prepare d3, d2, or e6. Now, thank you. I am trying to do my best. So now at the moment e7 is threat, so black cannot play d3 immediately because e7 is winning maybe. Also, okay, but who knows? We can check. With e7, rook d4 check is possible. And how to win? Not so clear. If king f3, d2, if king somewhere else, also d2 is possible. So how white can win this? Okay, so d3 was possibility. Why Alireza didn't play this? Rook d7 is possible, of course, but rook d7, rook f8, and black still chances. Hello, black has still chances to draw after rook d7, rook f8. So e7 looks like the most aggressive, but after rook d4, what to do? Black has quite serious counterplay. Because d2 is good, for example, if king gives 3 d2 and I don't see any ideas for white. Rook f5. Rook f5 I will take on e7 and no mate because I have rook h7. Yes. Rook c6 now. rook c6 is possible. But what is this if I check? Where will go white king from checks? King f4, rook d4, king f5, rook d5, king f6. This is idea. And rook c8 is coming. Yes, now white is winning. Yes, rook c6 is strong. Looks like. King g8. Yes, king g8 is possible. It's true. Yes, king g8 is strong move. So how to win? Maybe not king f3. Maybe king more active, but it will be some checks. If king g5, rook g2 is possible, and king f6, rook f4, and suddenly rook f4, king e5. Okay, so we can check. Because if this, king f6 is possible, and black cannot play rook f4 because after king e5, all rooks are attacked. So king g5 probably. But anyway, how to win after simple d2? Rook d5 is also possible to consider, I agree. But after rook d, if king f6, rook d6 also possible. Yes, it's also logical idea. I agree. So d3, it's not obvious how to refute d3. So maybe it's playable for black. I mean, enough for draw. Okay, so d3 was interesting. I cannot see a real refutation. But Alireza played rook e8. And now he repeated moves and play rook f6. Okay, probably Alireza decides that rook e8 is more easy way to draw than d3. I don't know how obvious it is, but also idea Alireza second. I have no information about second of Alireza. Maybe Kasimdzhanov. I know he worked with Kasimdzhanov, but I don't know if they are still working anymore. And okay, probably somebody knows who is second of Alireza and who is working with Alireza in general, not especially in this tournament. Mohammed, his brother, and also probably Hamid Reza, his father. But okay. It's of course it's very good that father and brother support him very much, and it's very natural, but very likely that somebody of chess players helped him as well. So rook e8. Important that if king f5, rook f2 is possible, and white cannot protect his pawn because king e4, king e5 is forbidden. If king g5, black has check, and then rook takes g6 and rook takes e6. Bakro, it's interesting. It's totally possible. So rook e8 is probably even more precise way than d3. So it looks like he's very good calculator. So he sees that king f5 doesn't work. And after rook f6, what played Rapport now not leave MVL. So okay, but I don't think that Bakrov so strongly connected with MVL. I know that Bakrov worked a lot together with Grishuk, also with Naidic. So, rook, he played rook e6, and now rook e7 suddenly play. Again, not d3 immediately. And why? Another enigmatic, another mysterious move with rook. Or maybe now not so mysterious, because if d3, rook h6 is possible, king g7, rook g6, king f8, rook h8, king e7, but rook g7 and king f6 is only move. But anyway, how white can win this? I have no idea. It looks like draw. Okay, so d3, very natural move. Only reasonable idea for white, rook h6. Oh, maybe there. Maybe rook f. No, rook f. Rook f5 maybe also idea. But okay, rook f5, king h7 even is possible. So what he was afraid. Okay, now king h7. I don't see anything special. So rook h6, king g7, rook g6, king f8. But I don't see how white can win this. Rook h8 and only move king f6, but looks like good enough. About the book Grandmaster Preparation, unfortunately I didn't read this book, so it's hard to say what I'm thinking about this book without reading this. So it looks like draw. After rook g3, after rook g3. Yes, rook g3. Is possible. Yes, rook g3. Yes, maybe this was the reason. Yes, rook g3 is unpleasant because black is losing his pawn. So after some checks, king will go to d6 and go to d6. Yes, maybe rook g3. No, I never trained with Dvoretsky. Okay, I have been in some sessions which where Dvoretsky was involved for Soviet juniors, but he never. I met Dvoretsky, of course, but he never was my coach. No, book from Landa and Sakaev. No, I never read this book. About positional game, about positional chess, there is an excellent book which was written by Boris Gelfand. This book I can recommend. So rook g3, yes, rook g3 looks like real problem for black. So probably this was the reason why Alireza didn't play d3. So it looks like he was right. So rook e7 he played. Why not rook is rook e6 is possible. But okay, rook e6 is possible. So this is not mate, but this endgame king g7. Looks like draw. Yes, I forget that after rook takes e6, there is no mate. Rook h6. I had illusion that rook e6. Rook e7 was mistake because king f5. Can I explain? Okay, so d3 was correct way, but important to see that here there is no mate from h6. I didn't see, surprisingly. Yes. Rook e7 and now king f5. Somebody of spectators. Okay, king f5 looks very logical move, and it's very complicated. Okay, maybe very complicated. d3 or something like this. Okay, so rook e7 was mistake according to analyze. So d3 was correct way to draw. Now king f5, but I don't know how to win this. It's at least not easy. Maybe rook g3 and rook d3, I don't know. Or some other ideas. Yes, book really helping. Informators, for example, helping me a lot. Encyclopedias as well, if you mean opening preparation especially. I don't know. Okay, maybe white is winning, but how to win this, it's not obvious for me. Rook g1 is win. Okay, rook g1, normal move. To prepare rook h6 and to stop rook g3. Okay. So rook g3 or rook g1, or both of them is winning. Even ingenious. Okay, so I can believe that the white had the winning position, or at least good winning chances after king f5. Also rook g4. Okay. Okay, so king f5 was strong, but 1800. No, it's Gelfand book. It's hardly can be helpful. So for you, will be more helpful. 400s miniatures, which was written by Roisman. I have this book. Just a moment. Probably I will show it. So this book, I mean, can be helpful. It was for me. It was second book in my life. My first chess book was Journey to Chess Kingdom, which was written by Averbach and Bailin. And this book from Roisman was my second book in my chess childhood. So if you have level 1800, I think this can be very useful. Also to improve your knowledge about opening. Okay. From Gelfand, okay, not too strong, but maybe not agent yet. So maybe 1 year later will be better to take a book from Gelfand. From last book was 50 games of Bent Larsen. Excellent book. Okay, so King f5, but he played b4, d3, and now he exchanging rooks, and this is draw, only one pawn left. Okay, about Nakamura, well, he's very good tactical player, and opening preparation is quite well, and also he's playing good with knight against bishop, and this also important characteristic. And he's quite flexible player. Sometimes he can play objectively not so good moves and had bad or dubious positions, but this position brings him good results in practical games. So he's a real fighter and very strong part of him. Okay, so Rapport missed excellent winning chances, and Alireza Firouzja made two very hard draws in first two rounds, and in round three he will have white. We'll see how he will fight for initiative, because in first two rounds we have seen him only like defender. Also, okay, against Rajabov he fought for initiative. He even sacrificed exchange, but at the end he suffered. Against Rapport from the start he was in defense. So with white, I suppose he will he will try to play aggressively and fight for advantage. And Alireza against Nakamura, okay, will be very interesting game to see. Of the book again, Roisman, Abram Roisman. 14 combination games, or not 14, 400. 400 combination games. In Russian, 400 комбинационных партий. Yes. Right. I mean, exactly this book. Second book in my life. I mean, chess books. Amongst chess books, of course. Okay, so now I think there is time to see game between two leaders after round one. So after round one, we had two leaders, Jan Nepomniachtchi and Fabiano Caruana, and they played against each other in round two. It was bishop c4, knight f6. So Caruana doesn't afraid knight g5 and knight a5 line. if he prepared this, of course. Okay, hard to believe that Caruana prepared Traxler attack for candidated tournament, but who knows? Surprise can be in our life. Whole event, I'm not sure because probably I will play in the tournament. So if I will play in the tournament, I will need to stop this. But till I am at home, I will comment. Dean Gliren, okay, it wasn't my idea to such system to play 30 classical games, and so I have no special opinion about this. What do you think about candidate master title? Okay, depends. There are different level of candidate master. Okay, officially I have no this title in drafts, but according to my colleagues, drafts player, my level is quite a strong candidate master in drafts. Draxler, okay, but maybe it started to very end, but I don't remember variation exactly. If somebody knows or remember, can show me, I will be happy. Okay, I know that bishop takes f7, of course, it's another promising line, and now white has a choice between bishop d5 or bishop b3, but what is the best? I remember I analyzed this position many years ago, and I had feelings that bishop b3 is more precise than bishop d5, but it's quite complicated. Okay, so knight g5 wasn't played, so d3, bishop c5, castle. Clear advantage, okay, maybe clear. Favorite movie? I don't know. It depends of my mood. So always I'm looking for something new, like in chess, same. I don't know. Okay, for example, excellent place to buy books was during big tournament. For example, like in Gibraltar, it was shop like market near the tournament hall, book market. Market with chess books and with acceptable prices and with very big choice, and same in other chess tournament like European team competition. So I probably this is the best choice, but okay, maybe Amazon it's also is good idea. So castle d6, c3, a6, a4, h6. Ah no, bishop a7 firstly, rook e1, h6. H6 shows that Fabiano is in aggressive mood. He doesn't want to play castle and to prepare rook e8, bishop e6 standard plan, but probably he is thinking about g5, start to attack in king's flank, and probably in future prepare castle long even. But we'll see what is doing Jan. Knight bd2 played Jan. Natural. g5, b4, knight g4. Surely it was preparation, because knight g4 is not so natural move which strong player can play by hand. So more natural, something like queen e7, for example. Okay, knight g4. Looks like Patzer style, but in case if Caruana displayed, so it must be Carlsen played knight h5 here. Really? Knight h5, maybe. Yes, knight h5. Because knight e5 doesn't work, it's important. Okay. Very fast, okay. I think matter of taste, and Rui Lopez is playable as well. Also, Scotch is playable as well. So it's just concrete preparation against concrete opponent. So knight g4. Aha, knight g4 was dubious, but surprise factor. Okay, so rook e2 is natural, queen f6. Oh, so black is ready for some sacrifices. So knight takes f2 and g4, and in the air, if h3, I think that h5 was planned. Take on g4 is extremely dangerous. Black can have mating attack, and again knight takes f2 and g4 is like threat. In this moment, d4, e takes d4, e5. Instead, queen e1. You mean d4? Yes, very logical. D takes e4, e5. Okay. D takes e5, b5. Okay, but what can I say? Even, for example, I can imagine myself in place of Nepomniachtchi. If even I see this idea over the board, it's not practical decision to utilize it if you are playing against a player who is prepared with engine, because it's too wild position. Okay, if to have guarantees that opponent didn't analyze this position, it's promising, it's interesting. But if not likely, almost 95% that Fabiano checked this position at home with different programs, such a choice strange from practical reason, from practical point of view for Jan Nepomniachtchi, and I understand very well that he decided to play something else. Or probably just haven't seen this idea. It's also possible, but I cannot assert what he was thinking about, and what probably he told something in his interview, but I didn't hear. So I have no idea. Okay, so queen e1, at least understandable decision. He just protected against knight takes f2. It looks like knight takes f2 now doesn't work. Aha, Fabi started to think. So knight takes f2 doesn't work because rook takes f2, and if g4, white has knight d4. It's important moment, and black just lost material. So queen e1, somewhere h3 can be threat. Also, white has plan to transfer his knight to g3. Okay, oh, queen g7. Okay, so Fabi started to think, and we are happy. So now no analysis anymore. So it's possible to think with own head, and white has choice. And Caruana characteristic, very good opening preparation, and very good chess education as well. In my opinion, probably the best from all of participants in candidates tournament. So queen g7 and knight f1, standard move, but of course white has choice, because knight is Chess education, okay, to know about many openings, to remember many games, and not only remember, but to have analyzed it, to have understanding of ideas also from classical games, from Alyoshin, from Capablanca, from Bogolubov, and he knows for sure he knows which opening was popular in 1940s, for example, and which opening started to be popular in 1960s and why. So this is chess education. So he can tell many interesting things about chess history. This is, I mean, chess education. Okay, it's possible to speak along about such a till move 17. Nepo against till move 17. Started to think. So after move 17, Caruana started to think. Not now. Okay, so knight f1 is very natural, but also white has another idea. For example, bishop a3 is possible to prepare b5. Sometimes knight can be useful on d2 if black plays f5 somewhere, or somewhere white can try to play bishop b3, knight c4, or b5. So bishop a3, it's quite a logical alternatives. Maybe even b5 immediately was possible. If knight a5, now bishop a2 or bishop a3 even possible allowed to take. So white has choice. So knight f1 is very natural move, but I have no feeling that knight on d2 is really bad piece here. Even, for example, bishop b3 is possible to prepare knight c4. But by intuition, I like bishop a3. Every day, okay, not every day, I think, maybe. Okay, so knight f1, standard Spanish maneuver, castle, knight g3, knight e7. d4 played Jan Nepomniachtchi. Again, he has choice, but probably what is bishop doing? I want to push b5, and somewhere I will play bishop b3, knight c4 with idea b6. So I want to utilize my knight on d2. For example, if castle, I will play b5. If knight e7, for example, I will play bishop b3, and my idea is to play knight c4 and then to push b6. Okay, black has contraplay, maybe knight g6, okay, g3 probably. And next move, knight c4 and b6 somewhere. So this is my idea. Okay, probably it's not so good because maybe black has this contraplay and I have no time to play knight c4 at the moment. So probably it doesn't work so good, maybe. So maybe bishop a3 is not the best because of this. Okay, but also I have tactical idea. If he takes immediately, probably I have this idea. I'm not sure it works or not. Maybe it doesn't work, but maybe it works. If c takes d6, b6. So this works, but black can not take immediately. And bishop f2, rook f2, rook a1, queen takes a1, c takes d6, rook e2. Another interesting position. White has a little bit weak king, but queen is ready to penetrate into a7. If knight g6, g3, and then queen a7, interesting position. But okay, maybe knight e7 is more precise, not take immediately and not give such an opportunity. Bishop takes d6 and b6, because b takes a6, b takes a6 is not a special achievement for white. But also I have this idea. h3, if knight f6, knight takes e5. So now It's another explanation why I like to have bishop on a3. But okay, maybe after bishop a3 not castle, maybe black can start with knight e7. Maybe this is more flexible to prepare knight g6 and to have a knight protected on e7. Probably knight e7 is stronger. And castle is serious inaccuracy. Okay, so knight f1 was played. Castle, knight g3 was played, knight e7, and he played d4. Okay, so reasonable choice looks like h3, knight f6, bishop e3. Try to exchange the bishop. But rook on e2 is not in optimal position, so black has knight g6, knight goes to f4, and black has quite strong contraplay. So Jan played d4, he decided to close the bishop. Maybe he is right, but if I will comment leave, no, I don't think so, but surely I will comment game finished. Maybe today it's the evening, maybe tomorrow I will inform in Twitch. So d4. E takes d4. C takes d4. Knight takes d4 is possible as well, but even necessary to consider this idea. It's anti-positional because diagonal is weak, but how to defend material? Rook is hanging and bishop is hanging. So, I don't know if white can organize serious attack. Bishop b2, queen takes c4, rook c1, queen e6. White is piece down and f6 is ready. I mean this variation. It looks like not enough. After c takes d4, again bishop d4, but now if bishop d4, white has knight h5, for example, like interesting alternative, so it's not the same. Of course, after knight takes d4, if something doesn't work tactically, black can consider moves like bishop d7, just play normal position with very strong square e5 for his knight. So, something like this. Okay, so c takes d4. Bishop, after bishop takes d4. Yes, I have students. Yes, I have several students. I'm doing lessons. But now knight c6. So Caruana likes very much idea to play knight e7 to provoke knight c6. Also, we have seen this idea in his game against Kirill Alexeyenko in candidates tournament in different position, but same idea. So it's like modern chess, and this is patent of Fabiano. And now white cannot protect the pawn because rook a1 is hanging. So white need to sacrifice pawn and try to fight for initiative. Young play rook a3. Knight takes d4. Black wants the pawn, but his king is permanently weak. And knight on g3 is very strong. Somewhere he is ready to go to f5, somewhere to go to h5. Also possible plan for white to prepare king f4 after king h1. But okay, Fabi playing immediately c5. So he is not waiting, because if black plays passively, something like this. White can consider king h1 and then f4 to prepare with good attacking chances. So Caruana played c5. B takes c5 took Jan, although it's not clear moment for me. Maybe it's possible just play this. Ignore. So f4 is my plan. If, for example, takes, if bishop c5, okay, I'm ready to give this exchange. I will go to this queen somewhere, for example, to d2. If this, black has weak pawn, and on d6 I'm ready to play f4. Also in the game, king h1 can be considered, but of course it's okay. Now, although with queen on e1, black has idea takes and knight d3, and I'm not so sure. So I would prefer to have a queen on d2. Not allow this plan, queen d3, but actually I'm not sure that this is so strong for black. So queen d2, because if knight f4, bishop b2, if queen a1, king h2, so maybe with queen a1 this idea works as well. D takes c5, more natural, okay. Okay, d takes c5 is natural, I agree, but what to do after king h1 and f4 is coming? White has quite easy play, f4 and attack. So after bishop takes c5, it's practically problem. Of course, king h1 is possible even here, but it's much easier to suggest for me such a move than play in candidates tournament against a strong opponent. So this moment is not obvious for me. So b takes c5 is not obvious. In my opinion, king h1 is more logical idea. Because f4 is prepared. I don't see any reasonable ideas for black. So if they not taken on b4, but if they taken and playing bishop c5, I have choice. Maybe queen e1, maybe it's not so stupid, but maybe queen d2 is even stronger. Not allow idea knight d3 in any moment, and also in some variation to attack pawn d6. So b takes c5, it's not clear for me. Bishop takes c5, and now rook b3. But okay, rook b3, he's not attacking, he losing tempo. So king h1 was more interesting, but okay, it's of course this is risky. So it's more easy to recommend this move than play this in important tournament. I agree, but after rook b3 and now b5. So Fabiano is not waiting till opponent will start to attack. He's trying to create concrete threats for advertisement. Answer what you mean? Okay, but I explained this. Instead of b takes c5, king h1 was very interesting. After bishop takes c5, after bishop takes c5, king h1 was interesting as well. Exchange sacrifice. But Jan didn't play it, and after b5, black start contraplays. White cannot take twice on b5 because knight d3 is coming. It's quite easy. Of course, but now b takes a4 is threat, and after ab it's bad for white that rook a8 became. After bishop a3, but my king already in h1, so queen d2. This After bishop a3, g takes h3, you have no check because my king on h1 already. Even if imagine that my king on g1, this position is not clear because after bishop takes h3, I have bishop takes d6, so I have no obligation to take this bishop even. D takes c5, king h1, c4 was idea. D take king h1, c4. C4 is possible. Yes. That's right, yes. I forget that this square is not protected, but okay. Again, I want to say that king h1 was better, and if c4 to play bishop b1. And prepare f4. Okay, maybe here also possible to play bishop f1, but I would prefer to have this position for white with pawn on b4 and d6. But maybe even here it's possible, so f4 is prepared. And not so clear what black should play here. Link deleted. Okay, so it's very complicated position, but f4 okay because white wants to provoke gf4, bishop f4, knight h5 is coming, rook g3 is coming, so it's quite. After bishop c5, f4, I will ignore this threat. Maybe, but okay, maybe not sure. So at the moment, bishop takes a3, bishop takes a3, g takes f4. Now my pawn is not protected. And if knight h5, queen g5, probably I have no enough compensation. Okay, now probably. So again, it means that I was right when I told that I prefer to have pawns b4 and d6 on the board. If I have these pawns, black has no idea bishop c5 at all. So now bishop c5 probably good move because f4 doesn't work and white losing his initiative somehow. Also, queen c3 maybe it's possible, but after queen c3, even f6, it's unclear. Yeah, so b takes c5, in my opinion, is dubious move. King h1 was better. Just under the video, what? Okay. So, but he took bishop c5, b5, knight f5 he played. Bishop takes f5 looks like natural, but Fabi decided to play queen f6. So after bishop f5, e takes f5, b takes a4, rook g3. And white has idea to push h4. It's not clear because after h4 black always can play g4, but at least white has practical chances for attack. Rook b8 also always possible if h4, g4. Okay, but Caruana played queen f6. Is it everything okay with voice, with video? Please confirm, because sometimes I am afraid that I am speaking to empty. All is fine, good. So b takes a4, rook g3. White is prepared. Some ideas with knight takes h6, queen takes h6, bishop takes g5 in some moment. Also f4. So king h7, very logical. Now after f4, black can just take. And after rook g7, probably no reason to take king h8 is possible with idea bishop takes f5. So white is just losing. So this idea doesn't work. After f4, bishop takes f4, although it's looks like more interesting, but black has serious contraplay. For example, they can take and then keep playing rook g8. Black has material advantage and quite strong knight on e5. White is not easy to organize real attack. So queen d1. White is dreaming to go to h5 somewhere, but sometimes also queen takes a4 can be considered. So it's quite a flexible move. And practically it can be unpleasant because opponent more expect direct play like f4. So queen d1, it's bishop d7 he played. Black has a big choice. The most natural... there is also trap. If black take twice, bishop g5 is coming. With idea bishop b1. And this looks like unpleasant for black. But maybe rook b8 is logical idea now. About book from Ukraine with love. Okay, I even commented 2 games for this book, but I haven't seen yet in my hands like book, like normal printed book. But I hope to see it in some days, because I know one of my friend who has it. I want to meet. I want meet him and I want ask him to show me this book. Okay, so maybe rook b8 was possible idea now to defend against ideas with bishop b1, and if white is taken on a4, just take here and take here, and at the moment black has 2 pawns up, and but still white has some compensation. Bishop d5 probably. Also, if bishop d5, knight g4 is possible, and then to take this bishop. So rook b8 was logical, but Fabi played bishop d7, rook c2. Now it's already clear that Jan cannot take on a4, but he wants to go to h5, more close to black king. And bishop takes f5. Yes. Okay, first of all, white has very direct threats. For example, if black plays rook b8, it's an obvious mistake here, because bishop takes g5. And if h takes g5, queen h5 is coming, and king g8, rook takes g5, and white is winning. So it's not easy to see, of course. So it's too primitive for candidates tournament, but it illustrates what white wants after rook c2. So black need to react somehow. What is choice? Bishop takes f5 he played, and rook b8, so he defended by this way against threat. But also reasonable alternative is looks like rook g8. I don't know what is problem here. Now bishop takes g5 doesn't work anymore. f4 is hardly good, because after g takes f4, black rook will be active on g8. So what white should do? Maybe Fabi afraid some motive with bishop b2 or rook takes c5, d takes c5, bishop b2, but I don't know how convincing it is. Okay, we can consider this. So this bishop b2. Bishop takes e5 is threat somehow, and if knight f3 or knight g4, white will take knight and then will take on f7, at least with practical chances. Also, objectively, it's far from clear. So probably this was a reason. And queen a1 in some variation is possible idea. So maybe it is line which Fabi afraid, but it's far from clear, of course, because black can just take, and after e takes f5, rook d8 now, and black is ready for rook d4. So it looks like black is better. If queen a1, rook d4, because of the bishop takes b2, rook d8 immediately, queen a1. There is no rook d4 yet, but black can play this, although maybe it's not so bad. And now black is prepared for bishop takes f5, and important that white has no rook f3 motive, because black can take rook with check. If imagine that king on h1, white king on h1 in this position, rook f3 could be quite unpleasant for black, but not now. So rook g8 was an interesting alternative, but I have no idea what was with time in this moment. So Fabi took and played rook b8. Logical move. Queen h5. Queen h5 is direct threat, so bishop takes g5 is threat. It's important that queen h5 is possible only after taking on f5, because, for example, if without taking on f5, queen h5 is totally rubbish, because black always can play queen g6. It's an important moment. So only this idea is viable to play only after exchange on f5. So queen h5 he played. Now bishop takes g5, direct threat. 30 minutes. Queen g6, rook takes g5. Sorry. Rook takes g5 is possible. Rook takes g5. I totally missed it. Sorry. So, yes, thank you. I will try to be more careful. So queen g6 is just bad move. You are totally right. Yes, rook takes g5 is strong. So here queen h5 is possible as well. But okay, but now black probably can do. Now there is no ideas with bishop b1, so probably now black can just take twice here. But f4 is coming. And after f4, queen g6 probably. Rook is hanging, sorry. Yes, now rook is hanging, and I don't see good ideas for white. And black is prepared to play. Okay, bishop b1, for example, is possible to consider with idea rook b2, but now maybe queen g6 again, rook takes g5 also, and white has many threats. So maybe rook g6 is correct. But after rook g6, f4 is coming. And After rook g6, rook b2. Rook b2, okay, rook b2 is also possible, I agree. So queen h5 even here is possible. Okay, just a moment. Queen h5. But what is white's threat if I just play rook b8, for example, without taking? So I want to understand what white wants. h4. After h4, even g takes h4 is possible in some variation. Black has check from g4 with knight, so it looks like interesting idea, rook ab8, just to wait and ask opponent what he wants. And of course prevent any ideas with bishop b1 or bishop b2. So rook g8 was very interesting idea, in my opinion. But okay, so he took. Now queen h5, rook g8 only move, and now bishop b2. White has threat. Take on e5 and take on g7. If queen will take on f7, if queen will take, if pawn will take, of course bishop is hanging. So Fabi decided to play rook g8, and he agreed to draw with move repetition. Okay, what if I want to check if he has any alternatives. So bishop takes, if something like rook b7, bishop takes e5, queen takes e5, bishop takes f7, looks like pretty dangerous for black, although yes, bishop g6. Rook b2 and a3, it's crazy idea. White is so crazy. It's very logical idea in the style of Tigran Petrosyan. It's not crazy, it's very wise idea. Subjectively, black has two pawns against exchange and very good pieces, bishop c5 and knight e5, yes. No, it's not crazy, it's very wise, but Fabiano didn't finish this plan. Yes, it looks like black is good here. Tigran Petrosyan style. Okay. f2 is weak pawn, yes. f5 is weak pawn as well, so it looks more or less obvious that that black has advantage here. Yes, you are totally right. So a3, black is better. Oh, rook b7 is possible, but after rook b7, black can just play rook g7 just to protect his pawn. Okay, but maybe it's possible to simply take on f2, I don't know. Maybe, okay, take on f2, maybe it's risky because bishop takes f7, white has some threats, at least necessary to calculate variation. But okay, why I need to take? I can play simply rook g7 to protect everything. Also, maybe rook f8 is reasonable. Maybe rook is even better on f8. And now all is protected and black can enjoy this. After h4, g takes h4 is possible. Oh, also bishop f2, rook takes g5, although also even this is possible, I think. If rook takes g5, bishop takes h4. Rook g7, king g1. Okay, rook g7, king g1. King g1, I cannot take on f5 immediately because of bishop b1. Yes, it's a reasonable idea. How to play with black? Maybe d5 is possible. To prepare knight c4, to prepare knight d6. If bishop takes d5, I can take on f5. And knight d3, what is knight d3? You want queen a1, queen a2, but after queen a1, bishop b1 is possible. No, knight d3 is hardly possible, but d5 is, looks like interesting idea for me. Okay, but Fabiano didn't play that, so it was his real chance. So it's strange choice that he agreed for move repetition in such a promising position. They agreed to draw here, and okay, so Nepomniachtchi played very risky in this game, but thank you very much. I will try, but firstly, more important for me now, just sit to the board. I mean, real board against real opponent, not online. Okay, so I finished to comment 2 games, and we have 2 games more. Before this, I need to take 10 minutes break to drink some tea. I don't know, but when I will know, I will tell. Okay, so after 10 minutes break, I will come back again, and we have 2 games more for today. Thank you. So I'm here again. Is it everything okay with voice and with picture? Hi. Can somebody? All good. Okay. So I read that Nikita Vityugov is second of Jan Nepomniachtchi. Seems me quite a good choice because Vityugov is a very strong player and very well prepared theoretically. About Fabiano, I heard that Aronian helps him, but I don't know if Aronian is Madrid, so probably somebody knows. Okay, any other question? No. Okay, so let's try other games. It is game 92. Nakamura against Rajabu. So 92 played Nakamura in this famous position. Timur responded with knight d4. Another popular line here is d6. And after c3, castle, a6. Only rumor. Okay. So what is correct information about second of Caruana? And now a6. Not only move, but its principal move. And now white can play sharp, so takes in d4. And according to theory, it's better to go to b6, not on a7, with idea to have bishop a5 in some variation when white will put rook on e1. So bishop a7, according to theory, is worse. Bishop b6 is the best. And I lost such a game with white against Ponomarev, but not by opening. Bishop a4 is very popular position, many games was played here. Of course, a6 is not only move, black has another moves, but if bishop b6, knight c4, it's pleasant position for white. If castle, now knight b3, it's interesting, and black has only moved bishop d6 to defend his pawn. Maybe it's not so bad move, but special position. White can just castle, because if knight comes somewhere, d4 is coming. So usually black plays d6 or knight d4. So knight d4 was. Okay, you are welcome. Dominguez. Dominguez, okay. They worked together before. I remember that when Fabi played against Magnus, his helpers were Kasimdzhanov, Dominguez, and Chirila from Romania. So Dominguez is not big surprise, but okay, it's a good choice. Very, very good player. So knight d4 played Timur. Knight takes d4. Bishop a4 is more popular lie. I played bishop a4 against Kramnik and against Giri. So against Kramnik was b5. This d6, this line. Anish Giri against me played castle. With idea if knight takes e5 to play b5, bishop b3, d5. Here black has sufficient compensation for the pawn. Okay, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. This is a theoretical position, and well known that white cannot take pawn e5 after knight f3, bishop b6, because if knight takes e5, queen e7 is coming. White has problem with hanging pieces. So knight is attacked, and also queen b4 is a very unpleasant threat. And if, for example, there is castle in the board, again, now knight takes e5 is possible, this not lost a piece, but after d5, black has totally sufficient compensation. Petr Leko played this with black, so white cannot defend his extra pawn, and it will be equality and maybe even draw soon. He said definitely not, but okay, but he was Blitz World Champion in 2008, so he already became World Champion. So I don't understand why he is so modest. Or maybe he just lost such a motivation, I don't know. Okay, so it's well-known theory that yes, Lenier Dominguez, Blitz World Champion in 2008. It was in Kazakhstan, I don't remember, in Almaty or Astana, but in Kazakhstan. I remember very well because I was second in this tournament, only half of point behind of Dominguez. So I was very close to became Blitz World Champion second time after 2007, but in 2008 Lenier won because in last round I made draw in winning position, something like this. So I was very, very close to win, but Lenier was successful, more successful. I was successful as well, of course, with second place, but Lenier won. Okay, so after d5 position is equal according to theory, but Caruana demonstrate totally new conception. So he played c3 immediately, and after bishop b6, d4. Surely it was... it's not Caruana, it's Nakamura, sorry. Surely it was home preparation, and now black has choice. After e takes d4, I think e5 was prepared with some compensation. Okay, but to be modest in chess, in fight, I don't know if it's good in general. So fight has his own laws, and not always is good to be modest if you are fighting for, especially if you are fighting for world championship titles. Okay, so e5, it's surely preparation. I don't know what is this. So knight d5 probably, maybe after knight d5, bishop c4, something like this. This follow. No, I finished it to comment Nepo against Caruana. And now I'm commenting game Nakamura with white and Rajabov with black. So Nakamura played d4 here. For me, it's novelty. So e takes d4 is principle. Also queen e7 it's possible to consider, but after queen e7, it's tricky position. I think castle is the best. Again, with idea if e takes d4 to play e5. If, for example, castle, knight c4 is possible. And interesting game. If d6, white can just play rook e1 and then take on b6 and enjoy with two bishop advantage. And probably knight takes e4 is possible. I can play rook e1, for example, after d5. Maybe even knight takes b6 is possible, and then f3, and then take on e5. Something like this. Also possible to consider knight c4, bishop takes d4. If c takes d4, queen b4, and probably black is fine here, because after bishop d2, queen takes b5, queen e2, white has two threats, knight d6 check or d takes e5, but black can play queen c6, and I don't know what is this. So positions, maybe d takes e5 is possible, by the way, knight takes Rook c1 maybe is possible. So it's quite tricky. Knight d6 is a threat at the moment. If knight takes d2, knight d6 check anyway is possible. So queen e7 is alternative, e takes d4 is alternative. Timur played c6, also is logical. That game followed Nepo Aronian after queen h5. Okay, okay, I didn't see game against Nepo versus Aronian, but so c6. Castle. And now very interesting moment that Timur played the castle. It's not obvious choice for me. Okay, maybe d6 was more precise. Because, for example, after castle, Nakamura played queen h5, but after d6, queen h5 is totally harmless for black because they have queen e5 option at least. So after d6, probably white should play something else. So blind and stupid, why? Hikaru played castle. Oh, Hikaru played castle, yes. But Rajabov played castle as well, but maybe d6 was possible instead of castle. And now queen h5 has no sense because queen e5. Probably also a4 white has idea now. And after b takes a4, knight c4. This is probably was point of strategy of Nakamura. If bishop c5, bishop e3 with idea to push e5, something like this. But okay, I don't know if it's real advantage for white, just castle. If e5, queen e6 is possible. Bishop takes c5, d takes c5, queen takes a4. It's possible, but I have no feeling that white has advantage in this position. It's more likely this is equal position. For example, after queen e6, pawn is hanging, black has idea, bishop d7 with tempo. So d6 it's a4, bishop d7, a5. Maybe interesting, but why bishop d7? I would consider b takes a4 in first queue. Because I'm also drafts player, so I'm considering captures in first queue. Bishop d7, okay, bishop d7 is possible as well. a5, yes, now black has some problem with his bishop. If bishop c5, knight b3 is unpleasant. Also, maybe even here, not so terrible. Okay, bishop d7 I don't like. B takes a4. d5, in which moment d5? Immediately d5. Okay, it's pawn sacrifice. After d5, even queen h5 is possible. No, d5 hardly good. But d6, a4, b takes a4. What is my problem? Can somebody explain me? If queen takes a4, bishop d7. If knight c4, bishop c5. So it looks like positions playable for black. Or maybe this queen b4 is possible. Yes, queen b4. Yes, queen b4, and now black cannot play bishop c6 because queen takes b6. And if castle, knight c4 is coming. But okay, bishop c6, and surely it's more pleasant for white, but is it real chances? Bishop c5, no, bishop c5, queen takes b7. I'm not sure that black has enough compensation here. Bishop is hanging, maybe bishop e6 is only move, but queen a6, for example, or even knight a3. Some compensation black has even here, but it's okay. So d6 is interesting move for sure, but Timur played castle probably with idea to play d5 somewhere or avoid some checks from a4. Queen h5, very logical. Nakamura attacking pawn, and black needs to defend. Queen c6 played Timur, not obvious choice. A6 looks like natural, but probably there are some concrete ideas with a4. B takes a4, knight c4, I don't know. I'm not sure this is such a strong, but somewhere e5, queen g6, something like that. Maybe even queen f3, it's possible with idea knight d6, something like this. But it's far from clear yet. D5 here. D5, queen takes d5, bishop g4, being strong. Interesting. But is it true? If I take with pawn, so what is bishop f5 is idea, something like this. Yes, it's a reasonable compensation, I agree. Bishop f5 maybe. We are considering bishop g4, queen takes b5. After queen takes b5, probably a6, and then bishop e2 is coming. If queen c4, rook c8, if queen d3, rook d8, and black has compensation, that's right. e5, queen g6 is possible, and now e5 is queen takes f2 simply. D5 is computer move, hard to play. Understand. So, thanks for information. So, queen takes d5, bishop g4. Yes, so it's a little bit similar to game Caruana played with black against Kovalyov in totally different opening. I will try to remember. It was played c4, c5, this slide. Knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, d4 takes. Доброго дня з України. Приємно вас бачити, приємно вас чути. Тримайтеся, бережіть себе. A3. Bishop c5. I want to show game Kovalyov-Caruana. Bishop b6 was played. And now e4. I remember it was interesting idea that d5 played Caruana here. It's very similar idea what you demonstrate, and very interesting line in principal line is take. Kovalyov played something different, but if white is taken, knight g4 is coming. This is idea. And if d takes c6, bishop takes f2 check, king e2, queen e7 check, king f3, and now simply castle. And according to computer, black is fine in this position, surprisingly. Hola, pero no soy Ivan, soy Vasil. Hello. So this is interesting position, totally wild, but according to the computers, black has a good position, even advantage. But for me, it's difficult to understand something, but I remember that after bishop f4, bishop b6 was important move with idea knight f2 somewhere, something like this. So this is a little bit similar idea which you demonstrate d5 in game Nakamura Rajabo. Yes, complete mess, but with helping of stockfish, a little bit easy. So queen c6 he played, a6 was possible, and okay, and d5 was possible, of course. But I agree that not so easy to play this over the board. Okay, so Timur played queen c6, not obvious choice. Rook e1 played. Rook e8. Not necessary again, but now white plan is simple. If, for example, black is playing d6, knight f3, bishop e6, bishop e3. And white is better because they have control of important square d4. So rook e8, but after knight f3, the problem for black that they cannot take on e4 because after simple bishop d2, white has too many threats. So knight g5 is threat, or rook takes a4 and rook e1 is threat. Less accurate, however, to take immediately, and now bishop d2 because in that case black has resource queen e2. Now it's not so clear. Bishop f4 is also possible. You are right. Yes, bishop f4 here. That's true, but in my opinion, bishop d2 is all strong enough as well. So d5. Timur doesn't like his position, and he's looking for complications. And he's giving the pawn. Okay, quite standard pawn sacrifice in martial style. Now he played queen c4, other moves possible, for example. He played queen c4. Probably he has idea to play bishop g4. If bishop e3, bishop g4, probably he wants to play, and then rook d8 somehow. It's far from obvious, but okay, black has such ideas also, like with queen e2 maybe. I don't know if it's really. Exchange queens. Queen takes d5. Queen takes d5. I'm afraid that white cannot defend his pawn simply. Bishop f5 is. Also, bishop e3. Maybe it's not so stupid. But yes. But maybe black. This bishop e4, rook d4 also is possible. f5 only move. If d6, king f7, probably this is draw, because king will go to e6. Because Rajabo was okay, but I'm not sure that white can win in this position. Although some pawn endgames can be checked after knight f3, but for example, something like this, like idea, I don't know if this maybe even king g3 immediately. So white has some chances to win in this pawn endgame, but I cannot be sure. Okay, so queen takes d5 was possible as well, but e takes d5 was played. So this. Queen c4, h3 prophylactic moves. Also bishop e3 was possible. h3 played Nakamura with obvious idea to not allow bishop g4. Bishop d7 played Rajabo, not an obvious choice. So queen e4 looks like more natural for me. Чи сьогодні я буду коментувати? Тут ще може залежати, як швидко вони зіграють. Якщо десь в 9 годині вони закінчать грати, то я думаю, прокоментую. Але якщо будуть грати допізна, то я все-таки так зовсім вночі хотів би поспати більше, ніж коментувати. Так що тут залежатиме від тривалості партії. Якщо партії будуть надто довгими, то я прокоментую, думаю, завтра якось. Не можу обіцяти. I explain in Ukrainian. It was question if I will comment games from today. Okay, I am not planning comment games online, but in the evening I can comment if games will be not so long. For example, if they will finish till 9 o'clock p.m. Ukrainian time, I can comment. If not, I can comment tomorrow. So Queen a4 looks like a very promising line because knight is attacked and black prevented idea bishop e3. So what to do? Bishop, if bishop d2, for example, bishop f5 I want, and it's not easy to defend pawn d5. If I will take pawn d5, it will be everything okay. Somewhere also bishop g6 is idea. So what else? Knight f3 to play. After knight f3, even queen e2 is possible. Okay, queen e2, bishop e3, it's maybe not so clear. Maybe it's promising for white. But after knight f3, I can play bishop f5 as well and attack pawn d5. Because if knight g5, queen takes d5, pawn f7 is protected. And this is... it's simply bad for black, for white, because rook d8 is coming, and now knight is hanging, and black has threat queen d1 check. So I don't see why queen e4 Timur didn't play it so natural and so nice move, and I cannot see idea how white can play here for advantage. Okay, but I will try to understand. Maybe knight f3. Okay, queen e2 is also possibility, but bishop e3. Black has some problem with developments. If queen b2, rook e1, so queen e2 is risky. So bishop f5 looks natural, and maybe d6 is idea. If yes, d6 I am thinking, but what is this? If rook d8, bishop d2 maybe. Or even bishop g5. And if rook takes d6, rook e1 and rook e8. Rook takes d6, rook e1. I have queen c6, but now knight e5. Knight e5, queen e8 also. And suddenly all is protected. So maybe bishop d2 is correct. Now rook takes d6 is hardly possible because rook e1. Yes, rook takes d6 just losing. And so what to play? Bishop g6, queen takes b5 is unpleasant. So yes, maybe d6 is problem. Okay, after d6, maybe I have something else here. Queen e2, unfortunately. Bishop c5, yes, bishop c5, interesting. This idea to take with bishop. Yes. Yes, why not? Knight h4 not possible in the moment. Black is ready to take. Knight g5 not possible. So if black will take on d6, everything will be fine. If, for example, bishop d2, bishop takes d6, rook e1, black has even queen d3. It's totally enough. If rook e3, queen b1 check. So looks like queen e4 was a very good move, and very strange that Timur didn't play such move. Okay, queen d1. Okay, queen d1, bishop f5, and rook d8. So it looks like totally enough compensation at least. Bishop e3, rook takes d6. So knight f3, bishop f5, d6, bishop c5, bishop e3, bishop takes d6, knight d4. This idea, and take on b5 if bishop. But okay, I can play bishop d7. If knight takes b5, I have bishop c6, and white cannot protect his pieces. So white just losing here suddenly. Because if queen g5, bishop e7. Not h6, of course, because knight takes d6, but after bishop e7, black is winning. Queen takes f7. Oy, oy, oy. But okay, king h8. And so only one check. And doesn't work. Yes. So it looks like after queen e4, black has no problem at all. So, yes, nice motif, but doesn't work. So queen e4. So bishop d7 played quite passive move, very strange. So queen e4. He should play such a move. Okay, so but he played bishop d7, queen f3. Now it's more difficult because for black because white consolidate. What Engine's thinking, it's not question for me, so it's question for another people. I'm not using engine during my analysis in Twitch. So queen f3. Okay, even now black has compensation. For example, b4 is possible. So typical Marshall style compensation with excellent chances for draw. For example, if bishop d2, just take and to play rook e8 with idea rook e2. It was the best move. Okay, so and now b4. Ask the engine. Okay. Okay. So before now, very logical decision was to exchange one piece and to have a typical Marshall compensation. But now I'm not so sure. Maybe white has knight d3 also. With idea if b takes c3, knight e5, but rook e8 is coming, and if c takes b4, bishop b5 is pretty unpleasant. So b4 was a very logical choice in my opinion. So he played rook e8, allows bishop e3, and now rook e8, bishop f4. Where bishop f4? Here bishop. Yes, bishop f4 I was thinking, but now this and this is possible. And it seems me that this pawn, it's very dangerous. Queen c2 is coming in next move. Thanks for subscription. So before was good move, and black has at least excellent chances for draw. But Timur played rook e8, bishop e3, and now black is in trouble because white has extra pawn. It's quite weak, but also white has a good future for his knight. I mean, idea to play knight c2, knight b4, knight c2, knight d4 in some moment. But okay, still situation is far from clear. Okay, maybe in trouble, but it's not clear. He played rook e5. He won't just attack white pawn, but maybe again b4 is possible. White has several weaknesses and black has active play. Probably it will be enough for draw in this position. So before is Inter. So I'm not sure yet that black is already in trouble because coordination between white pieces at the moment is far from optimal. Even black has some another opportunities like f5 is possible, for example. If knight c2, rook e4 to attack this pawn, I want to take somehow, and if rook d1 I can take on a2, so it's not so clear yet. Okay, and white can consider such ideas like this. Maybe white is better if g6, g4, but black has contraplay with e5, for example. So still not obvious for me, but Timur played rook e5, d6, and now bishop c6 probably risky because d7, I don't know. Although d7, yes, d7 is strong. Because if rook d5, rook d1 white has. So if bishop takes d7, queen takes b7. Yes, knight is better, but knight will be better when he will go to d4. But for example, in this position, I cannot tell that knight is already better than black bishops. If c takes before, queen takes before, b2 pawn is hanging, so situation is still very far from clear. Also, after c takes before, black can play rook e5 with idea rook f5 probably. But not sure because rook e5, d6 again. And rook f5 just take. This is only check from f1, but after king h2 is nothing. But okay, just queen takes b4, and black has quite serious compensation. For example, if b3, queen d2 is possible. So situation is far from clear. Maybe rook e5 is dubious move, and d6, bishop c6, now d7 is really unpleasant. So queen d5, okay, now it's more or less obvious that black is suffering because they didn't take pawn d5 and they have no active play. So rook d1, this. Instead of taking d5 pawn, black took e3 pawn, but it's not the same. And also b5 pawn can be weak. So rook d5, very concrete move. So white wants to play rook c5. And if b6, rook e5, it's extremely unpleasant. Black cannot take it, obviously, because they are losing the piece. If rook d3, rook e7 is coming. If rook takes d6, knight e5, and again, black is losing. So very concrete play. Probably Timur missed this idea several moves before. Of course, if image that white is doing. But now also knight e5. It's, sorry, d6, bishop c6, d7, bishop d7, queen takes. Bishop c6 is possible. Not very strong. Okay, bishop is strong, but black is 2 pawns down, and I'm not sure that this is enough compensation. And also weakness of last rank, for example, after queen e2, knight f3, black cannot take with bishop because queen b8. And white is prepared for rook e1. So you are right that bishop is strong, but I'm not sure that this factor guarantee enough compensation. Okay, so let's come back to the game. Not only rook c5 or rook e5, but also knight e5 is very unpleasant threat. So after b6, simply knight e5 is winning. So f6 is more or less forced, but rook c5. So now it's clear. Bishop c6 impossible, of course, because white can just take and play d7. And after rook d3, knight d4. Game is over. So rook e6 is only move. Rook c7, rook d6, rook b7. So now it's everybody can understand that white is much better because rook is much more active and knight is much better than bishop because knight will go to d4. Okay, about Alireza. Okay, about Alireza, I want to say, if imagine that he played these two games in match against one player, it could be important to make such hard draws because it would bring disappointment for opponent not win in such a position. But in tournaments, it's less important and. Okay, but anyway, he demonstrated a good fighting spirit in bad position and stubborn playing, and this is important in such a strong tournament. So I think, but it's a big question if he has energy to play now more active and. Create problem for his opponent because if he will only defend in this tournament, it's obviously not enough to win. It's enough. Probably it can be enough for show decent result, but if he has goal to win this tournament, he must demonstrate something much more aggressive. Okay, healthy and sharp today. Me? Sharp round, okay. Rapport tried to play against Alireza time. Okay, maybe. I didn't follow about time. Okay, so this position, white is much better, it's obvious. And so a6, knight d4, because knight is much better than bishop. It's very often in games of Nakamura, but of course it's still not easy to win. And black has choice. Timur played h5, not obvious choice, maybe g5 has reason. This idea to play h5, h4. If white plays g4, okay, that's possible, but in some variation, black can have contraplay against h3 pawn. Also, even immediately h5 can be considered, and it's not clear that h5 pawn is so strong. Black wants to play bishop d7 and then to play, for example, if this king g3, not so easy, because if king h7, knight f5 somehow, if f5, knight f3 somewhere, but if white has any progress, if black is just waiting, for example. Okay, or rook b8, rook d8 also somewhere it's idea, but it's question how strong it. For example, this rook b8, rook d5, and practically okay, g4 in future h3 pawn can be weak. So for black, I think g5 was the best practical choice, by the way, to prepare h5, h4 to fix g2 pawn and try to create contraplay, because after h5, h4 is very tactical move, black has no this contraplay. Yes, now I'm considered game Nakamura Rajab. I have 4 games together in this file. So h5 seems like dubious idea. So g5, in my opinion, was better. Anyway, white is better everywhere, but g5 was the best defensive resource, in my opinion. So h4. Now after g5, g3. So it's remember me my game which I lost to Nakamura in Kabdah. He fixed my a5 pawn. He had knight against bishop, and I had pawn a5 against pawn a4. He fixed this bishop, and he won excellent game. I recommend to see this game for everybody, how I lost against Nakamura in Kabdah tournament with black. So king f7, rook d5, black is just waiting, so no contraplay, everything under control, and white can improve position. Rook d5, okay. White was ready to play c4, so yes, g5 was better, yes. Yes, I explained that g5 was better. So he lost a pawn. What year? About 2007, something like this. But easy to find. Nakamura white, Ivanchuk black, 1-0. Yes. Carlsen, also Aronian won excellent game against me, against isolated pawn from Queen's Gambit accepted. Okay, that's true that I also won several games against Nakamura. Okay, so let's come back to our theories. So we see that white has pawn up and all trumps. Probably somewhere was inaccuracies, I don't know, but so it was quite a long game. But now white has 3 passed pawn and excellent chances to win. a4 push. So Timur trying to organize something like counter attack, but it's not enough because white pieces are very well coordinated, black pieces are not. Knight g3, a6, and it's finished. Okay, and the last game which I will annotate today, it's Jan Krzysztof Duda against Dinh Liren. I'm fine, thank you. And you? Rook c1. Rook c1 was mistake. Rook b1 still drawing. Okay, maybe, but it wasn't easy. Rook b1. Okay, let's come back to see this moment. So even rook b1 was draw. Okay. This idea if okay, but it's engine says if I play c5, bishop takes b3, c6. Where is draw? Okay, maybe not bishop takes b3. King g5, and if c6. King g. You mean something like this? No, hard to believe. Because king f2 and I will propone. Okay, so engine, it's engine. Where rook b2? Here rook b2. You mean this, bishop, this, and this is, maybe if I promote queen takes rook b4. Maybe, okay, but it's at least not easy. Okay, anyway, maybe rook b1 was better. This was engine, but anyway, Nakamura totally outplayed his opponent, and victory of Nakamura as a result of this game, it's quite logical. Probably in the end, Timur Rajabov missed chances for escape somehow. Okay, so now I want to Duda Dingliren. Was not so long game. It was some Italian as well, as I remember, right? Or Spanish. Yes. Italian. But he played castle. Fabi played a6. Duda is white, right? Duda is white again. So Firouzja played 2 games in... Okay, the tournament shows rook b1 in human. Okay, why in human? Because idea to take on b3 and... So rook c1, it's also not human because there are no check from c2 if compare. So rook b1 looks even more human than rook c1, but important to see idea bishop b3, bishop c4, bishop a6, and rook b4 at the end. It's really difficult for player, not for computer, I mean. So Duda is white, Ding with black, rook e1, a5, h3, h6, knight bd2, bishop e6. And now white has principal choice in this position to take on e6 or to play bishop b5. Duda played bishop b5, very natural. It's just take, and played knight f1, and then to play bishop e3 like in the game Rajabov against Carlsen. Was it Rajabov against Carlsen in Norway? Oh, it wasn't Rajabov, but it seems it was Rajabov. Oh, okay, maybe not just in this position, but this idea. Exchange on e6 and then prepare bishop e3 and... no, it was Topalov against Carlsen, sorry, in last round. Topalov, Carlsen, Magnus made draw, but he had bad position during the game. So it was Topalov. Bishop b2, bishop b2. Okay, so bishop b5, queen b8, knight f1, queen a7. So this is theory. d4 is theory. It's very sharp line. So somehow bishop f2, king h2, something like this. There are many games already. Rook e2 played. a4. Knight g3, queen a5. Bishop takes c6, b takes c6. So black has 2 bishops advantage, but position is closed. And white is trying to organize attack. And typical plans: knight h4, knight f5 here, or knight h4, king h2, f4 probably. So, but Jan Krzysztof played bishop d2. Not totally necessary, but this is his choice. So maybe king h2, maybe knight h4 was important alternatives. Bishop d2 he played, probably he wants to prepare d4 in some moment and to have possibility c4. Bishop b6. He avoid d4 stamping, queen c2. It looks like he doesn't want to play in king's flank at all. More natural was to play again something like king h2, knight h4, and then knight f5 or f4 in some moment. But okay, Jan Krzysztof has another plans. I see queen c2, king h7. Black is prepared because if knight h4, okay, knight h4 is not so natural with connection with queen c2 because usually if white is playing in Italian or Spanish structure knight h4, they want to have his queen on f3 somewhere, or even in h5. Okay, it's happened. I mean, Rajabov lost rating, but okay, he didn't play during for a long time, so he needs some time to recover his form. Of course, it's not easy if you are playing against such a strong opponents. So now king h7, it's not mysterious move because after knight h4 now black is prepared to play g6 and not allow knight f5, and in future probably even knight g8 and f5 can be possible plan. Yeah, not necessary of course, because for example if white is doing some passes, black cannot play such primitively because here d4 and black king obvious very weak, but black can play slowly, for example rook e8, and in some better moments they can think about f5, so it's flexible position. But c4 played Jan Krzysztof, queen a7, bishop c3. So he doesn't want to play in king's flank at all. And structure, remember me, game between Adolf Andersen and Wilhelm Steinitz. It's very similar structure. I annotated this match already in Twitch. Round 3 will start in half an hour. So just after I will finish to comment. Okay, so knight g8, it's Steinitz style move, because Steinitz liked it very much to have his knight on e7. Of course, black has choice, other moves is possible. Okay, I want to understand what wants Jan Krzysztof. He wants to play d4, but d4 is not easy to play because pawn c4 is hanging. But okay, from other point of view, black is not easy because black cannot play with pawns. If d5, pawn e5 is hanging. If c5, bishop b6 will suffer somehow. Also, somewhere black can play c5 and bishop b6 will go to a5 in some moments. Bishop. So even now, c5 is not so stupid idea, probably. White has no attack in king's flank, and in some moment bishop a5 is possible. For example, like illustration, bishop a5, it's not necessary, but I want to show you ideas that something like this in style of Volga Gambit, and then rook a8, knight d7, knight b6, and probably black has enough compensation for equality. Knight g8. At the moment d4 not prepared because e takes d4 is possible if e5 g6, so it doesn't work. Maybe also white has some compensation, but okay, it's far from obvious. So king h8, bishop d2, maybe white has compensation, but okay, it's risky to play in such style. It's more easy to consider this when you analyzing game than to play it against a really strong opponent. Yes, after c5, also black has idea knight e7, c6, d4 in some moments. So c5, it's not so stupid from positional point of view, in my opinion. Okay, so rook d2. He played c5 finally, because now he afraid d4 already. White is prepared for d4. So c5 he played, rook f1, but it's c6. c6 is strange move, because very reasonable idea looks to play knight e7. And with idea knight c6, knight d4, or with idea to play bishop a5 in some moment after queen takes a4, bishop c3, and have compensation in style of Volga Gambit. Maybe it's possible simply play bishop d7 and then bishop a5 without giving pawn a4. Maybe even immediately here bishop d7. If he doesn't want sacrifice pawn, to prepare bishop a5 and play this position, white has no real attack. Okay, white can play knight h2 and f4, so probably knight e7, because now if knight h2, I can play knight g6 even to stop f4 and prepare bishop a5 in some moment. So in some moment bishop a5 can be very strong idea, this pawn sacrifice. So c6 is the move. Frankly speaking, I cannot explain myself playing c6 here. Okay, maybe it's not a bad move, but my hand could not play this move, because after c6, I have no idea knight e7, knight c6. I have no idea bishop d7 and bishop a5, and in some variation d6 pawn can be weak. So okay, but it's choice of Dinh Liren. So, but I cannot imagine myself playing c6. Sorry. Knight h2 played young Krzysztof. Maybe knight h4, but he wants probably to play f4. After knight h4, if f4, he always need to calculate e takes f4 and g5. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's too dangerous, but at least white need to follow this. But also reason knight f5 white wants in some moment. Probably g6 is possible, but now this, and now g5. Who knows? Is it if white has strong attack here or not? Something like knight h5, g takes f4, rook f2. It's in style of I am streaming from my home. White is rook down, something like this. So this is style of Adolf Andersen or Mikhail Tal, something like this. Thanks for your subscription. I don't know if this attack is enough or not, but it's... Jan Krzysztof played solid, knight h4, f6. We could expect f4, but probably after f4, d5 is possible with idea d4 and some complications. Hello. Thanks for subscription again. So maybe this, if okay, maybe white can just take, and maybe this is good for white. When d4 is possible, and then d takes e5. So f4 is, looks like principal idea to create something in king's land. Maybe, however, black can take and now play d5. So it can be complication, because black has idea to push d4. White has idea e takes d4, e takes d5 and d4. But what is this? It's very far from clear because black has contraplay. So probably young Krzysztof afraid such a continuation, and it's understandable. Somewhere also bishop c7, black has resource. So f4 is principle, but it require very cute calculation in many variations. So he decided to wait. He played rook e2, queen d7. So now we see idea of c6, which I didn't understand. So he wants to provoke f4, and after f4 take somewhere and play bishop c7. And he's thinking that bishop will be good on c7, but okay, it's typical Chinese chess, so it's not my style. It's style which it's very difficult for me to understand, and impossible to follow this style. But young Krzysztof doesn't want to play f4, so he played bishop d2. He wants to play f4 in moment when this not require any calculation. But Dink stopped this idea, g5, so, and now active play is blocked for both, looks like, because position is closed in both flanks. So rook b1, king e7, b3. Yes, I analyzed all of other games. In their language. Okay, their language I tried to learn, but I couldn't understand why same word can have 25 meanings, and same letters I need to pronounce in many different ways. So I stopped this. Okay. It's matter of taste. If you speak Chinese, it's good achievement for you. And if you can write hieroglyphs in correct form, it's excellent. Yes, I was trying, even several years. Tonnes, yes, Tonnes, it's impossible for me. Tonnes was even much more difficult than hieroglyphs. Especially for me. So young Krzysztof is trying to do something in Queen's flank, but it doesn't look like very serious attempt, because for white it's extremely difficult to promote a pawn. So they are waiting. Nothing. f5 was played. Pawn still on a2, and black doesn't want anything, but white, even for native speaker. Okay, so bishop e3. Okay, maybe white can play f3, knight e4, and idea to prepare h4 in future. So it looks like still some problem for black, but somewhere black can have idea d5 if f3, and e4 is coming probably, so it's not time to sleep in such position, because it looks very quiet, but if somebody is making inaccuracy, it's very easy, can be sharp complication. But he played bishop e3. Oh, okay, in my opinion, knight e4 is possible. Probably he was afraid g4, although I don't know. but is it strong after h4? It's not easy to understand. It's not obvious, maybe, because knight on e4 is strong, but what is white plan here? I don't know. In general, if black, if you imagine that black not doing anything, white plan can be something like this: f3, for example, g4, and then, for example, if black not doing anything, white plans is to prepare h4 in some moment. So, for example, rook c3, and then rook c1, rook h1, h4. Always to keep that if d5, knight takes c5. But sometimes black can have this resource and queen d6, so it's not time for sleeping about tactics. Yes, I cover all of games. This is last game for today. But Jan Krzysztof played bishop e3, Oxford English edition. And they repeat the moves. Okay, so they agreed to draw. It was possible to play this position, but opponents decide to agree for draw. Okay, it depends of their tournament strategy. It's not drawish position yet. Of course, white can try something. Even g4 is possible here. Same plan, but with knight on h5 instead knight on e4. But okay, it's from the king, it's risky. Somewhere black can have attack, but if black not doing anything, king g2, f3, h4 in future is plan of white, but probably d5 is possible and e4. Okay, maybe it's just a rubbish, but who knows, bishop a6, for example. I just want to illustrate that, okay, maybe rook b6, maybe now white is winning, but this line is, it's not forcing line, of course. e4 immediately can be considered, of course, but is it strong or weak? It's difficult to maybe it's strong with idea rook f3, so at least like idea. But okay, Jan Krzysztof decide to make draw with move repetition, and okay, was question about him that he is fine with these results. Okay. Okay, he can tell anything in his interview, but difficult believe that he is totally happy with -1. So, okay, it was question about impression, who is best player according these 2 rounds. In my opinion, Jan Nepomniachtchi is the best player if about first 2 rounds. Caruana played well as well, but Caruana didn't allow such a risk. And without risk, it's difficult to win such a strong tournament. So the best impression from first 2 rounds, it's my opinion about Jan Nepomniachtchi. If I know Chinese, some words and some phrases, but okay. Today predictions. Okay, I will try. Who is playing today? Can you give me pairs and I will give you predictions? So who is playing today? Nakamura with white. No. Nakamura is black. Please put right color. Alireza Nakamura. Ali Naka. Ali Caruana Duda. Raja Nepo. Firouzjan Nakamura and Rapport Dink. Okay. Ding rapport. So I wrote for myself to see clear. Okay, Ali Reza against Nakamura. Okay, Ali Reza is tied, so I think it's draw. So my prediction, Ali Reza against Nakamura will be draw. Caruana against Duda. Caruana is white. Okay, 1-0. Caruana will win against Duda. Raja against Nepo. Draw. Ding against Rapport. All result is possible. But Ding is white. He will not lost. He will play solid. So draw. So according my prediction, Caruana will win against Duda. Other games will be draw. Okay, so thanks for your attention and see you again. Ding is white. Okay, Ding needs to win, but okay. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.